You've likely spent much of your life trying to fix things. Your past mistakes, your uncertain future, the behavior of others, or even yourself. Every pause feels like an issue waiting to be resolved. Each setback seems like a reflection of your worth. Every silence feels suspicious. And in the process, you've lost touch with what it means to simply allow a moment to exist. To let life happen without analysis. To allow people to feel what they feel without absorbing it. To stop trying to accelerate or control every outcome, and instead let time move at its own pace. But the reality is this: the majority of your pain doesn't come from the events themselves. It stems from the resistance. That mental tension, the effort to mold every detail, to force smoothness, to speed up discomfort. It's that constant question, what do I do now? Instead of, what if I simply let this be what it is? I understand. Letting go sounds passive, like you're throwing in the towel, like you're doing nothing, but it's not. Allowing something to unfold without interference is an act of strength, because it requires trust. Trust that the world keeps turning even when you're not steering it every second. You don't realize how tightly you've been gripping things until you release just one of them. Until you choose not to send that one last text. Until you stop explaining yourself to those who were never really listening. Until you stop chasing approval and just let yourself exist, right here as you are. For the first time in a long while, you feel weightless. Not because the world is suddenly perfect, but because you're no longer locked in a constant battle with it. You're no longer replaying old wounds, no longer obsessing over what's next, no longer letting the opinions of others dictate how you show up. You're just here, and somehow, life feels softer. You've been conditioned to mistrust ease, to equate struggle with value, to believe that if it's not hard, it must not matter. If you're not pushing, fixing, or constantly adjusting, you must be falling behind. But that mindset, it's not ambition, it's anxiety in disguise. It shows up when you wake up and immediately check your phone. Not from curiosity, but from fear. When you schedule every hour of your day, not out of discipline, but because stillness feels like danger. When you overthink every message, every silence, every shift in tone, not because something is wrong, but because your nervous system can't tolerate stillness. You've been taught to treat life like machinery, something you need to operate nonstop. But life isn't a machine. It's a rhythm, a current, and you were made to move with it, not against it. Here's the wild truth. Most of what you're desperately trying to control would self-correct if you just stopped interfering. That relationship where you're constantly over-explaining, maybe it just needs air. That dream you're pushing into a narrow structure, maybe it's already growing, just not in the exact shape you expected. That emotion you keep masking with routines and distractions, maybe it doesn't need fixing. Maybe it just wants your attention. But we're never taught that. We're taught to dissect every emotion, to micromanage every outcome, to believe that a good life is one that's perfectly engineered. But sometimes, peace walks in when you stop knocking. Alignment happens when you stop chasing it. Clarity lands the moment you stop trying to force it. Letting go doesn't mean surrendering your power. It means trusting the process enough to step out of its way. It's saying, I've done what I can. Now I allow this to become whatever it's meant to be. It's trusting that your worth isn't measured by how much you produce or how much you control. Because real peace isn't found in micromanaging everything. It's in learning how to remain still without panic. Once you stop forcing life, you'll realize something beautiful. Life doesn't need your tight grip. It needs your calm presence, not your panic, not your master plan, just you, here, now, awake. But that's hard when you spent years in survival mode. You've been wired to fix, not feel, to react, not reflect. So when there's nothing to fix, your mind panics. It creates problems, not because they're real, but because chaos has become your comfort. And that's the trap. Not addiction to the chaos itself, but to the feeling of being in control, of being the one who always handles it, of keeping everything intact, even if it means breaking yourself in the process. But what if the things you keep trying to patch aren't broken? What if the cracks aren't flaws, but gateways? Portals to something new? Maybe a different path? Maybe a more honest version of you? Maybe peace that doesn't come with conditions. Consider how much you've missed because you were too focused on preparing for the next thing. How many conversations you only half experienced because you were scripting your next response in your head. How many moments, quiet mornings, slow sunsets, passed you by while you mentally rushed through them, trying to get somewhere faster. Letting it be brings you back to your breath, back to your body, back to a you that doesn't need to chase life, because you realize life was never running. And here's the quiet twist. When you stop managing everything, people around you begin to shift too. Not because you told them to, but because your energy is no longer fueling dysfunction. You stop being the fixer, the explainer, the performer. You become the calm in the room, grounded, present, unshaken. And that groundedness, it speaks louder than any argument ever could. You become a lighthouse, not flashing, not yelling, just steadily there. A reminder that peace doesn't equal passivity. Peace means trust, and trust isn't always loud or sure. Sometimes it's soft, shaky, silent. Sometimes trust is just you, choosing not to respond. Not because you're cold, but because you finally accepted that not everything needs your input. That's the shift, and it transforms everything. Not through action, but through space. Most people don't realize how tense they are until they try sitting still. Try it. No phone, no distractions, no fixing, just presence. You'll notice the twitch, the urge to check, to scroll, to manage. That's not boredom. That's your nervous system mistaking stillness for danger. You've been on high alert for so long that peace feels suspicious, like something's missing. But here's the sacred truth. Peace isn't the reward for finishing. It's the beginning of truly living. And to access it, you don't need a new goal. You need permission. Permission to not know. Permission to let go. Permission to stop treating life like a performance. Clarity isn't always earned through effort. Sometimes it shows up after you release the pressure, not in dramatic surrender, but in quiet acceptance. This is where I am. It may not be what I imagined, but it's what's real. And for now, that's enough. Letting it be doesn't mean you're giving up direction. It means you trust that rushing a process ruins what could have naturally evolved. Look at nature. Trees bloom in their season. Rivers bend without force. And yet, everything finds its way. So will you. You're not meant to sprint endlessly. You're not here to endlessly explain yourself. Letting go is choosing to meet life here, now, not dragging it to where you think it should be. You're not here to control the flow. You're here to learn how to float. And maybe, just maybe, breathe. Because when you stop chasing, life comes closer. There's a strange magic in surrender. You start to notice what was always there. The softness in someone's voice, the beauty in a quiet moment, the calm between chaos. Letting it be doesn't just ease the tension. It reveals what you were missing all along. And it's not your fault. We're conditioned to overdo, to overfix, to overthink. But what if growth isn't always in addition, but in subtraction? What happens when you stop performing and speak your truth? When you stop strategizing 5 steps ahead and actually live the step you're in? Letting go isn't weakness, it's mastery, it's emotional strength. You're no longer flailing in every direction, no longer needing approval to feel grounded. You're still, and in that stillness, healing happens. Not through effort, but through permission. To stop swimming upstream, to stop solving life like a problem, to start feeling life like music. And some of the most beautiful songs only make sense when you stop skipping ahead. Letting go doesn't always come with fireworks. Sometimes it's quiet, a tiny shift, a breath, a pause. You resist the urge to jump in. You let the moment breathe. And in that space, you reclaim yourself. You stop rewriting every interaction. You stop trying to say the perfect thing. You let silence be without fearing what it means, because silence can be sacred, not empty, not dangerous, just space. And in that space, you find yourself, not the polished version, not the productive one, but the you that never needed fixing, the you that just needed permission to exist, without pressure. You don't have to fix anything right now. You don't have to move, or solve, or understand it all. Just let this breathe. Let this be. Because maybe the next chapter doesn't begin with a task. Maybe it begins with a whisper. This moment is enough. And if this reached something deep in you, don't just scroll past. Pause. Breathe. Type it out. I'm learning. Not for the algorithm, for you. As a signal, as a start. And if you want more of this, more spaces where you can just be, subscribe. No noise, no pressure, just presence, just truth, just you. If this message stirred something within you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it. Someone else might be walking the same silent path, waiting for a sign that they're not alone. Stay grounded, stay thoughtful, stay awake. For more deep dives into philosophy, the human experience, and timeless truths, subscribe and turn on the bell. Wander the void with wonder. Question deeply. Think freely. Until next time, embrace the silence and let it speak.